Welcome back, everybody, to another video lesson. We're going from zero to producer in 90 days with Ableton Live. I'm your instructor, Torbjorn. Big thanks to Ableton for extending that free trial of Ableton Suite 10. Awesome piece of software. We get to use it for 90 days for free, so while we're all in quarantine, we can keep our brains active, we can stay creative, and we can stay productive. This is the third video in our second project series. We're making a beat from the ground up. In fact, it's a hybrid genre beat. Starts with a dubstep drop and then later goes into a trap drop. Let's do a quick review of what we talked about last time, and then we'll get into it. Last time we were working together. We outlined our song form. We wrote an intro chord progression. We started a dubstep drop. We started a trap drop. Got a pretty decent amount of work done on this beat in just 2 videos. I think we did like a drop sketch for each of the 2 videos. Well, now it's time to hit the pedal to the metal, and I'm going to go through, now that we've got all our basic ideas here, and I'm going to just blast through as much of the rest of this arrangement as I can. Since we already have our main ideas here, really like all of the hard work of the arrangement is done. We're just going to be copying and pasting and duplicating and layering a couple things. I'll talk you through all that stuff as I do it, but like I said, we're just going to move really fast because all of the detailed creative work that we needed to do to come up with what this song is, we pretty much did in the last video. All right, so finishing the arrangement, we're going to stack and layer more on the intro. That's my step 1. So we've got this piano chord progression here. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to select the track. I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to solo this new one. I'm going to go through here to my sounds, and I'm going to find another sound to layer on top of it. Start with some pads. I'm thinking something kind of atmospheric. Might be kind of nice. Let's just drag it over there and hear what that new sound sounds like. Lower that sustain a little bit. You can maybe mess with the octave, select all the notes, shift, arrow keys. That might be cool. Let's just turn the second one down. We'll rename that pad. And let's do the same thing one more time. We're going to see if we can get kind of like an arpeggiated synth thing going here. So we're going to pick from our sounds, going back to guitar and plucked. I always love these plucky sounds. Might be good. Little trial and error is okay. Remember, we always have this hot swap button, so we can just change stuff out really quickly. MIDI effects, arpeggiator. Let's solo this one and take a listen. Might want to shift it back down an octave, actually. Maybe if we hit the steps up 1 and keep the distance at 12 on our arpeggiator, let's open up this gate a little bit, and we'll get it to step up 2 octaves now instead of just playing the 4 notes and then starting over. Like that a little bit better. I'm going to do a trick here. We've got the sync button on our arpeggiator set to an 8th note, but I'm actually going to cheat here a little bit, and I'm going to just select an 8th note of time, hover my mouse over it, and then down here on this bottom bar, when my mouse is hovered over it, you'll see that it tells you the time duration. Because we've got 150 as our BPM, 200 milliseconds becomes the length of time that is an 8th note. So I'm going to set this rate to 200. It'll be the same thing as an 8th note, but it'll allow us to do some cool automation stuff towards the end of the build-up. Now, instead of just doing right-clicking, show automation in new lane, and being able to change in steps from an 8th note to a 16th note to a 32nd note, etc., With this option here, we can have that change gradually. So it's not necessarily going to be perfectly in time with the music, but we'll have way more states that it can be in. So it'll sound smoother as that speed increases. Let me solo it and you can take a listen. So I'm going to keep that there for now just so I remember that we're intending to use that effect. But that can be a really cool trick with the free rate on the arpeggiator. All right, so we've stacked and layered some stuff on the intro. We maybe even will bring the arpeggiator in only in the second half. That's all good. Let's go on to the next thing. Humanize the piano chords. This is a trick that a couple people have showed me, but one of my favorite local producers here in Washington, Parrot, formerly known as Pills Beats, was showing me this technique pretty recently. If you zoom in, your grid size becomes really, really small. And so you can start by like moving these notes over just a tiny bit. And then instead of getting a perfect like ba every note playing at the same time, it kind of becomes a little more human feeling. Sometimes if you hold command or control if you're on a PC, you can even move that stuff off the grid, and sometimes that even helps. So we're just going to do that. I believe we have just a duplicate of this whole thing. No, it is 8 chords individually. All right, so I'll go through real quick and just move a couple of these off the grid. And then after I do that, I'm going to use the velocity MIDI effect to kind of randomize how hard each of the keys are being hit a little bit as well. That's another great trick to help humanize it. You know, not necessarily everybody that plays piano perfectly, even the best piano players don't perfectly hit all of the keys at exactly the same time. So we're just kind of mimicking what it's like to be a human being playing this instrument. Also, timing is one thing that doesn't necessarily happen perfect for every piano player. In addition to that, not every piano player hits every key. You know, your 5 fingers have varying degrees of strength. Also, your right hand, if you're a right hand dominant person, might be a little bit stronger than your left, or possibly vice versa. So there's all these kinds of different variables here that come into play. And we just go here in with a magnifying glass, almost quite literally, and just make some of those changes intentionally. Similar to stuff that we often do with drums when we'll make our hi-hats or make some of our extra kick drums a little bit at a time. It's just to mimic what real people that play the instrument sound like. All right, so got all these notes off the grid in timing a little bit. Go into MIDI effects. We're going to drop a velocity on there. Oops, I actually wanted to add some random. Pull this hardness down a little bit maybe. Add some reverb. All right, so now it's sounding a little bit softer, which is great for the first half, but let's go in here to our low setting on this add some random MIDI effect, and we're just going to draw a small line up until the very end. So the second half, maybe by the second chord, we're just going to add it, draw it up to like 10 or so, and that'll just make it so that the softest chords on that second half are not quite as soft as the first half. You can see they're a little more firm sounding, as opposed to these first chords. Like that second one was really soft. And it changes a little bit every time it triggers because that's what this effect is. It's sort of random. So that's great. We've humanized the piano chords. Now each of these drops need a second half. And in the second half, we're going to need to add or change something integral and add what I like to call sprinkles. Sprinkles, shout out to KSI, Cosmo Sound Industries, who taught me this trick. Sprinkles are something that makes the track really appealing for a very small detail. And it's a detail that doesn't happen very often, just like sprinkles on a cake or a cupcake. You don't necessarily want a cake full of sprinkles, but it can be nice to have them in there once in a while and add a little bit of flair. All right, so let's take a listen to our drop. And it repeats. All right, so we're just going to select this whole drop and we're going to press Command D and we're going to switch up this bass line. So this wobble bass here is kind of the defining sound. So what I want to do is I want to turn this drop on its head. So we get wobble number 1 and then it responds with wobble number 2. And then I want to get rid of all the other sounds and I want to fill this space with something new. So we're just going to keep kind of these ones on the downbeat. And then we'll maybe leave these ones here at the very end. The second half, we're going to need to change the bass sound up. Great. Doesn't take a lot to switch it up. We'll steal this MIDI clip here on our new track and we'll do the opposite. We'll get rid of all these sounds on the downbeats because everything else is going to be different wobble. Now, I believe we made these wobbles with Wavetable and Wavetable as well. So something that I said that I was going to do more in this unit was show you guys some external audio effects from third-party companies. So let's take a look at Serum. I know not everybody will have access to Serum. You can get a short free trial via Splice's website. Great option to try it out. Make sure you cancel that subscription before you end up paying for it if that's not something that you want to do. But I'm just real fast with making these wobble sounds in Serum. So I'm just going to kind of quickly do this. I'm going to make it with a sine wave. I'm going to use frequency modulation from this other sine wave that is going to be 2 octaves higher to add some of that distortion. Start this here, probably around 15 or 16. LFO to boost it like this. And then we should, like, just with a few twists of the knobs here, have something that kind of is starting to resemble a wobble bass. We might have gone too hard on the FM. So let's pull that back. Think we might be experiencing something where our sound, our LFO here, too far to the right. So these really short notes aren't being triggered. Actually, you know what? Instead of moving this over, what I should do is go in here to our MIDI clip and make these short notes a little bit longer. Those real quick, drag them out, see if that helps. Oops, and let's change our LFO here to envelope as well. Great. That's doing what I want it to do. Something like that might be cool, pulling that up an octave. Let's go in here to our effects and start adding some distortion. Compression, we'll hit the multiband button, so this kind of turns into an OTT. LFO just to like modulate everything really. And a filter. Kind of just open this filter up here. All right, and then I'm going to turn the reverb on. I'm going to drag the reverb down to the very end of the chain, and I'm going to actually put the mix up here pretty high at like 50%, and then I'm going to use this LFO to drag the mix to the left. So as the wobble sound starts to make sound, the reverb will disappear, and then the reverb will come back after the wobble sound is disappearing. Kind of get this sort of like a side chain kind of vibe. We're just going to bring the size down, do some low cut, see if we can just kind of tame this reverb a little bit. That's getting pretty good. Let's pull the size back up. I think we're really close to being done with this third wobble here. That's pretty good. One other thing I like to do here on the multiband compressor is just grab this mid band and drag it all the way to the right. It's like turning the output volume of that band up, I believe, and then do the same thing for the low, and then either leave the top alone or maybe drag it down or up a bit depending on the sound. I like where it's at right now. I'm going to just leave it. So that's good. Here's our wobble 3. This is how we switch up the second half of that dubstep drop. So let's take a listen to the last couple bars of the first half, leading into the second half, and then we'll figure out a sprinkle. I think we may need to reinforce the sub of this sound. Spoke a little bit too soon before hopping out of here. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to add an EQ to the end. I'm going to tighten up this Q, get this frequency, around 200 is usually good. Just get rid of as much of the low end as I can. And then in this oscillator, I'm going to turn the sub on. I'm going to turn the direct out up. And then I'm just going to use this same LFO to control the volume. Let's solo this and take a listen. The difference now should just be that we have some pretty clear and defined low end. I'm listening on pretty small speakers, so I sometimes just put the octave up. Just make sure that I'm hearing it. Sounding good? I think it is sounding. That's all good. We'll leave that for now. When we go through and mix this, we might make some more changes, but I think that's an all right starting point. All right. That's good. Time for some sprinkles. I think the move here is to lean on this vocal sample. So maybe just to cut a couple things out while that sound is happening. Remove a few bass elements. We've got some snares here and stuff. Get rid of a few of these things. Just leave that kick drum. And then let's actually go here and show automation for our reverb send. And let's just do a big reverb hit on that kick drum. Sounds okay. I think we can definitely have a longer decay time, lower size, bring some of that high end back. Get rid of that last snare drum here as well. And maybe do another big reverb hit on this dub percussion thing as well. Sounds a little heavy. Let's pull it back. -10. And let's just move this tambourine thing back where it was. And let's listen to that. All right. That's good for a sprinkle there. That's the dubstep drop. Let's switch back over to the trap drop. right, I think we can pretty safely do a lot of the same stuff to switch up the second half of this drop that we did with the first. Start by copying and pasting it over. I think the big thing to lean on here are these horns. So let's pull everything out except for the horns at the end, and then maybe the kick drums as well, which I think hi-hats. Let's get rid of the snares. Let's actually just recompose that kick drum pattern there real quick. Dun 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 dun. Awesome. I think that's pretty good. Now we need to do something interesting here in the second half, and I'm thinking that it's time to switch up the 808 a little bit. Yeah, maybe I'm gonna turn these off for now and just make a new MIDI clip, and let's just find a different 808 and see maybe if we can get away with just completely changing up the 808. May have to do something to support that with the drums, but a little trial and error is okay. Synth samples, bass, got here. Maybe we can start with that one. Another thing that we can do that is really quite effective when you're doing 808 songs. Starting on an F, we can go down a couple steps. Do like a C sharp. Little bit risky. A little bit risky with the C sharp because not every speaker can reproduce that sound. But if it can, as I'm stealing our MIDI clips from our other 808 track, if it can reproduce that really low note, then that sounds really cool. And if it can't, then you'll just want to make sure that you pick an 808 sample that has a lot of mid-range so that it's implied. Like, I can't hear the low fundamental of this F here, but I can definitely hear all of the mid-range and all the harmonics on it. All right, so let's see if we can shift this down to a C. We'll, of course, want to shift all of these up. And we'll want to switch up our horns. F, flat, D, flat, C. All right. I think we'll double back when it's time to mix because, again, that's a really, really low note, and it might be too low. But for now, we can at least hear the harmonics of it, so that'll be fine. And I am thinking that I want to add like an arpeggiated sound here as well. So I'm going to just quickly experiment with something. We'll see if it sounds cool. Thinking like a 3/4 thing. A little bit of room here. But we're going to have to move it up. All right, I really like where this is going. I just got to finesse the notes a little bit. Ba. All right, so we got to move all that stuff up to an E here at the end. And what about this part? Third section. And we can get rid of these last ones. 808, and I'm thinking we're just going to throw a delay on there. See if we can get it. Reverb as well, and we're probably just going to call it on this sound and move on. Turn it down a little bit when we get into sound design and mixing. Might finesse that sound a little bit more, but for now, I think that's okay. That might be something that we can steal for the intro and or the outro as well. All right, we got a sprinkle. We changed something up in the second half of the drop. That's all good. Next thing in the notes, build up. We got to add some stutters, some pitch bend stuff, maybe some risers, a couple filter sweeps. So let's listen here to the end of the build up section. All right, I'm thinking some tom fills. And we're going to have to do a kick and snare pattern here and build up those kick drums as well. Doing a really, really simple drum pattern. 4-bar thing. All right, and then we're going to chop off this 4th bar here. And this is actually going to be where the most of the buildup happens. You know the drill. Duplicate them, make them half as long every time. And leave a little space for some silence there. Bar 32.3, that's when we want those chords to stop. So we'll just drag them all back here. That'll be good for now. Double check our automation from our ARP. Pull that back so that's happening at the right time. We'll mess with that stuff a little bit more, but pitch bend, risers, filter sweep. All right, so we can go in here to our drums, search for crash. Kind of like that at the start of the drop. Put a bunch of reverb on it. Play. All good. And then now we want to find a really long crash, and we're going to reverse it for our buildup. Oh, that's perfect. And it's already reversed. All right, so we want to line this up. This is our last kick drum right here. So everything should stop right before this kick drum hits. Bet we can even do another one of these big reverb hits. That's kind of the effect that I'm looking for. And I also said tom hits, so let's find some toms. Those three will work. Because, oh, you know, I feel like we grabbed these from another project and I didn't really like them, but let's see if I can finesse them and get them to sound good. It's real tricky with toms sometimes because they have a lot of low end, and also because some of them are really short and like with loud transients, and some of them are really long and ring out. The nice thing about audio is you have the fade tool with this extra little diamond in the middle, so you can kind of adjust your transients a little bit. I grabbed the wrong tom. We're gonna just move these. Getting ahead of myself here with a little bit of sound design stuff, but it might be cool to have these pan. All right, that's pretty good. That'll do for now for a build up. Beat drops at the end of the build up. We did that. Add percussion elements every 8 bars, and then maybe a top line melody as well before we get into the sound design stuff. I'm thinking probably some shakers. Going here to my loop percussion. Some percussion. Bars in. Add this shaker sound. That all the way over to here. Stop it right before our kick drum. And let's add some stick sounds. The stick sounds can start from the very beginning, just so we've got some percussion. Percussion outside of the shakers. Got awesome. Little layering goes a long way. Let's just go ahead and grab all this stuff that we did in our first intro and build up. We'll copy it over to the second one for now. We'll change some stuff when it comes to be sound design time. Have our piano and keys and our arpeggiator, and basically going to do this same thing here with our percussion for the outro, but we'll do it in reverse. So the sticks will go all the way to the end. Shaker will go almost all the way to the end, and then the djembe will go. And we'll kind of do our same thing here with our drums that we did in the first drop. And we'll just have those cut out. That big reverb automation hit over. All right, pretty quick and dirty here, but that is our whole arrangement of our song, basically. Not a whole lot of detail on there yet. Next thing that we need to do maybe is a top line, but I'm going to skip that for now, just for the sake of time, and let's move on to some sound design stuff. All right, so first thing we got to do here is fade in the piano and this synth. So I'm going to go from 100% wet on the piano, automate that all the way to dry about halfway through. And here with our synth, I'm going to filter that in with an auto filter. So that will start basically with no sound, and it will start to appear over time. Maybe we can steal our tom fill here as well. Nah, I don't like it. Delete it. All right, so that's good. We can copy and paste that automation. Our second drop. Opposite at the end. Fade out instead of fade in. All right, great. Some reverb and echo automation on the dubstep drop is going to be crucial. Thinking some kick hits, some snare hits. That snare hit is going to be the one. And we got that reverb sounding just right for the kick drum, but now it's a little overkill for the snare. Little overkill for the snare. So if we pull it back to like -10 or so, little easier to handle. Go ahead and copy that over to the second drop. And let's go in here to our dub percussion and see if we can add some automation for the play. Couple random ones like that. Grab, I'm just pretty much guessing, but I'll just grab another one there as well. And let's do the same thing for this tambourine. Show automation. Kind of grab a few random ones. And maybe this very, very last one. That OTT on the loud stuff. That real quick for like some of our bass sounds, maybe. Filter EQ chorus on some of the soft stuff. These keys might be a good example for that. I'm not going to dive too deep into that. That's some stuff that sometimes happens during the sound design process, but I tend to leave some of those decisions to mixing. Want to do them now? That's fine. But I'll just throw a chorus here on our chords. That helps kind of get that thing out of the middle a little bit. Maybe this vocal sample, we can do something here. Pitch Hack is a cool tool if you have Max for Live installed. I believe this comes with the Creative Extensions plugins. Adds that kind of high octave thing. We can change the rate. Reverse it, etc., etc. Let's just leave it like that for now. I kind of like that, actually. We'll OTT that vocal just to bring out some of the detail of that pitch hack. All right, that sounds pretty good. Horns. Maybe just a little reverb there. That drop 2 ARP. Sounds okay. The 808 stuff sounds okay. Let's check this wobble here now. I've got these, if you right-click any one of your effects, whatever it's set to, there's this button that says Save as Default Preset. And so I've taken my OTT preset, customized it, and then saved that as the preset. So that's why every time I hit Multiband Dynamics or hit EQ8, it pops up with these 2 versions of the plugin, these 2 like presets that I have that I use the most. So I use these in tandem. This one, as you know, like compresses the hell out of a sound and makes it like everything really, really loud in the same volume. And then this side control, I use it to get rid of a lot of the low end on the sides and to help make it a little more mono. That helps. We might reinforce that with an extra sub later. But I have a feeling that we're going to just get a lot of character out of all of these wobbles by using OTT on them. Throw a overdrive on that one. See if we can bring out some of those frequencies with an overdrive. Sounds all right. Let's check this first one. Pretty lo-fi. Not a whole lot of high end coming out of it. Maybe a saturator will help. Kind of hard to tell sometimes if it's better or worse. You got to just put a few effects on there. And then if you select those effects, Command G or Control G to group them. can turn them all on and off together. Kind of like it. It's maybe a little more distorted than I would have wanted, so we might end up going back and finessing that some more when we're mixing. But either way, these are a few easy sound design options. Go through here and do that type of stuff to our percussion as well. I like to add chorus on stuff to kind of blur that image a little bit. So if you've got something like this stick sound, chorus, not corpus, it's quite sharp sounding. And that chorus just kind of like blurs it from the left to the right a little bit so that some of that sharpness goes away. Well, let's leave it for now. I'm going to pretty much call it here, I think. We finished our arrangement. We did sprinkles. We changed up the second half of our drop. We added percussion stuff that changed every now and again. Kick and snares. Some risers and crash cymbals and tom hits. Layered our sounds. OTT, reverb automation, echo automation, some choruses. I think that's pretty good for now. I think that's everything that we needed to achieve. All of the arrangement and sound design stuff going as fast as I can, making as many decisions as I can in a short amount of time. We're going to go back through when we're mixing this and make sure that all of those settings are nice and perfect. But for now, we can wrap this one up knowing that we made some good progress today on our beat, feeling good about being creative and being productive. Thanks to Ableton for that, for making this software available to us for free so that we can do that. Thank you for watching these videos. Stay positive, stay productive, stay creative, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace out.